Hi everyone, welcome back to a new Live It Deep Dive. Today, I'm here with Senaqwila Wyss from West Vancouver.
Hot squile tanoya, Senaqwila Quian Sna. Hi everybody, my name is Senaqwila Wyss. I'm from the Squamish Okomeo, the Squamish Nation, and I reside in West Vancouver, which is in the traditional territory of my people, my ancestors, the Squamish Nation.
Thank you so much for being here today. Can you tell us about yourself and how you came to learn about the history of dogs in the Coast Salish culture?
So when I was just reading kind of our own nation's documents, it was sharing from our late elder, Louis Miranda. He was a very respected leader and someone who shared our language and culture, how important the woolly dogs were to the Squamish people and in a lot of other Salish communities. And so within our language, we had an animal called Papa'ayakane, and that translates to the fluffy hair skin of a dog. And it's this very special breed. So when I read this little quote saying that if there was an emergency, a woman would only grab two things, which is her children and her woolly dogs. For the Squamish people, our woolly dogs were very highly regarded. They're part of our wealth and also part of our knitted family community. Traditionally, we had a very special dog that would be raised and the only animal allowed in our homes or dwellings. Salish woolly dogs were also very important to the women in the community. And so the women were the ones caring for them, raising them, understanding the process of shearing, so trimming their hair to make into yarn, and how to clean and process to turn it into strings, into making it into weavings.
They sound really special. So I'm sure everyone must be wondering what these woolly dogs actually look like. Could you describe them for me, please?
So the woolly dogs were fairly medium to small size. And so they were quite, as in our Squamish language, they're described as being very fluffy. So the fluffy white hair it grows fairly long. If you know anything about sheep, you need to trim their hair or their fur, and then it will keep growing back. If you have a pet, if you have a dog, you might know that they do shed throughout the year, especially during when it gets hot or cold. They're just kind of summer or winter coat. So we would be using that seasonal change to get our trimming every time, but also seasonally that they would have separated areas. Kind of during different times of the year, the dogs would be separated to be with people living on a separate island. And that's just so that they wouldn't breed with another kind of dog with a different color fur or different texture hair, so that they would only maintain that kind of dog species.
Okay, I see. So what did the dogs eat?
We would feed them a marine diet, so fishing, mostly salmon and other types of seafood seasonally. But the dogs would have kind of a mixture of raw and cooked salmon diets. But again, it would kind of focus on which area. There's many different Salish communities that would raise them.
Huh, that's so interesting. So what kind of uses did the dog fur have?
So I've worked with a few different fiber collectives recently, and so the more European style of processing wool would have been a little bit more similar to a drop spindle, which is this kind of has like a circular shape, and when you drop the yarn it will twist and turn into becoming rope or yarn. And so that's one method, but our kind of fibers here, so mountain goat and woolly dog fur or hair, was quite short compared to other fibers, so it would be done with a thigh roll. So if this was like kind of a motion where you go like this and you spin it on your leg or your thigh, and there was a big like longer string that would lead up to a whirl. So it's like kind of a thing that would be catching it into yarn or into a rope. So when we had different types of things that we would create, from weavings to processing fish and salmon, those would be ways of our trading currency, whereas things that were nowadays purchased for money. They don't have any living breeds of the Salish woolly dogs anymore, but I have been working closely with the Smithsonian and other Salish communities and looking at the way, just the different characteristics and describing the breed. So the woolly dogs are fully extinct. There are no living woolly dogs anymore. However, there are ways that, in a sense, it could be brought back, and that would be through selective breeding. You could, over time, slowly create a dog that would closely resemble the woolly dog. So often people think about like Jurassic Park, but rather than trying to clone the DNA, if you were to breed a dog with the similar fur color, the similar texture of the fur, so they have what's called an undercoat and a top coat of describing the texture of their fur, looking at the size of the dog and the different things that we would be able to feed the dogs. So looking at the ways that we don't want to repeat that same mistake again. And while the woolly dogs are now extinct, of seeing how can we bring that awareness of this part of our history and culture to the forefront, as well as being able to, as I mentioned, that we can't clone them, but is there ways to bring them back in a sense, but also by sharing that history, it's a very vital part of understanding who we are as Coast Salish people. So for visitors within our Salish communities and territories, of understanding more importance of our history and who we are as weavers, as people who are from the land, as we say, that these are important pieces to understand more about where you live today, about how we can interact and support that history of Indigenous people. I do have a husky myself who had puppies, so for me it was kind of like she is the spirit of a woolly dog, but of course she's black and white, she doesn't have the same markings, but to me it would be something, absolutely a dream, to be able to reincarnate them in the sense that we would find similar traits, and just for us to be able to be practicing things that our ancestors were not allowed to do is very important.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been really fascinating learning about these woolly dogs.
Thank you for having me. We would say hoit mathat in our culture. We say see you again. So thank you so much. Thanks for learning with me.
Bye!